And Sarah, just a reminder as host, you'll just have to open up the room. Happy to provide assistance if we need help.
They're coming in.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Before we get started, I encourage you to follow us on social media, connect with us on YouTube, subscribe at our channel at Grade Level Reading. On LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, follow us at Campaign for GLR, and on X, follow us at Reading by Third. Please use the hashtag Learning Tuesdays and tag us to tweet anything you learned from today's webinar, and we'll be sure to retweet. We encourage you to share your questions, reflections, and observations on social media. And welcome again, everyone. As I said, my name is Sierra Sanchez, and I'll be behind the scenes helping to produce this webinar. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge our enterprise and programmatic funders, as well as our individual donors. Your support not only allows us to hold these vital conversations, but also helps us create meaningful opportunities to share insights, foster connections, and build the CGLR community. Thank you. I do have a few housekeeping tips that I want to share with everyone. First, we'd love for you to introduce yourself, so please use the chat box at the bottom of the screen to share your name, city or state, and your organization. Be sure when responding to select both panelists and attendees so that we all know who is here, and feel free to share your thoughts and insights throughout the duration of the webinar. Though this is a meeting format, all attendees are currently in listen-only mode, but we encourage your engagement by posting any thoughts or ideas in the chat box and posting your questions in the Q&A box. We will dedicate the last portion of the webinar to respond to those questions, and our panelists will be typing out answers to those questions throughout the conversation. The webinar is being recorded and live streamed on Facebook, and a link to the recording, as well as any slides, bios, and webinar resources will be sent in a follow-up email to all who registered. And lastly, we'll be posting a brief on-screen evaluation during Q&A and highly encourage you to respond. This helps us with our commitment to continuous improvement. And before we jump in, I just wanted to turn your attention to some of our upcoming webinars. We hope you can join us again later this afternoon for a special partner webinar at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. This will be discussing schools as safe spaces beyond active shooter drills to trusting relationships, a very timely conversation. On May 13th, we hope you'll join us at 3 p.m. for a discussion on Medicaid as linchpin, the truth and consequences behind that work. And on May 20th, we'll have an important funder to funder May 20th, we'll have an important funder to funder conversation at 12:30 Eastern Time with timely support for immigrant families and children. And at 3 p.m. that same day, we'll be discussing education savings accounts. So more information and registration links for these sessions will be posted in the chat box now, and we hope you can join us. And joining you now is Jenny Atkinson, Senior Consultant with the Campaign for Grade Level Reading. Thank you and enjoy.
Thanks so much, Sierra, and I'd like to welcome all of you to today's Crucible Practice Salon, connecting homeschool and community through playful math, First 10's Young Mathematicians Initiative in York, Pennsylvania. For those of you who joined our Funder to Funder webinar last month focused on math, or others that we've hosted, you know about the importance of starting early with math in ways that are accessible, and you heard about how early math success is a predictor of early school success, high school graduation, and success in the workforce. Today, we're going to hear about an initiative that's making math come alive for young people, the Young Mathematicians Initiative, and I'm so excited that we will have this chance to see the program in action and learn about the details of its successful implementation from a variety of perspectives. This is the third in a series of 3 sessions highlighting the work of First 10, a model focused on supporting school and community partnership and building on family strengths, improving outcomes for children in the critical first 10 years of their lives. Our presenters today include a range of representatives from the school district of the City of York. We'll hear from Angela Ashley, Pre-K Counts Principal, Andrea Berry-Brown, the Superintendent of Schools, Airiana Kibbler, kindergarten teacher at Ferguson Pre-K through 8th, and Jennifer Wilson, a Pre-K Counts teacher at Devers Pre-K through 8, as well as Sakeenah Sweeney, who's the director and owner of iCare Youniversity. In addition, all with EDC, Education Development Center, we will hear from the director of the First 10 Initiative, David Jacobson, Kristen Reed, the managing project director, and Jessica Mercer-Young, principal research scientist. You can read more about our presenters in the biodoc that I will post momentarily in the chat. To lead the discussion, we'll be joined by Kimberly Brenneman, a presenter in last month's webinar on ways funders are working to ensure more children get a stronger start with math. Kim is a program officer for early mathematics at the Heising-Simons Foundation, and prior to joining the foundation in 2015, Kimberly was research faculty at Rutgers University's National Institute for Early Education Research, where she led projects focused on curricular and instructional practices to foster science, technology, engineering, and mathematics learning for young children in school and home settings. I'm so pleased to introduce our moderator, Kim Brenneman. Welcome, Kim.
Thanks so much, Jenny. Appreciate that introduction. And I was going to remind anyone who didn't already know this about me or hadn't come last month that I am an early STEM and early math. That's what I'm all about. I have supported young children's learning from the beginning of my career in college and ever since. And so it's just so exciting in my role as program officer at Heising-Simons to be able to talk with this group of folks here today. I've worked with David, Kristen, and Jess at EDC for many years. It's wonderful to be joined by educators from the city of York, Pennsylvania. I mean, everyone here pretty much knows that I'm about math. What they don't know is I grew up not too far from the city of York in South Central Pennsylvania. So it's a little cherry on top of the Math Sunday to be able to talk with folks from the city of York. So I'm going to start the conversation today with David. As we heard, the campaign has done a series on First 10 communities. So I'd like to ask you about that, David. And then tell us a little bit about why First 10 in York City. And then why was York City such a great site for the Young Mathematicians pilot project?
Sure, Kim, and thank you. Thank you for moderating today. We really appreciate the partnership with you and the Heising-Simons Foundation around this work in York. And a big thank you also to Jenny Atkinson and the Campaign for Grade Level Reading team for organizing today's webinar. I'm really excited to be here with this great group of colleagues to talk about the First 10 Young Mathematicians Initiative in York. So as Jenny mentioned, today's webinar is part of the campaign's 3-part series on First 10. First 10 school community partnerships bring together elementary schools, early childhood programs, community organizations, and families to improve teaching, learning, and care for children and families. These are very focused, action-oriented partnerships, all guided by the same common framework and drawing on similar sets of strategies that they adapt to local circumstances. So in part 1 of this series back in November, 2 leading communities, Conestoga Valley, Pennsylvania, and Woonsocket, Rhode Island, 1 urban and 1 more suburban rural, took the stage. And these 2 communities shared creative approaches to the transition to kindergarten and other ways of supporting children and families. And in that webinar, we also heard from parent voices on the impact First 10 strategies have had on their family. And then in February, in part 2 of the series, we learned about a different version of First 10. Maine has added its own special sauce to the First 10 approach, creating what I think of as a distinctive First 10 model. The Maine model focuses on creating First 10 community schools, so really leaning into the school as hub idea. And then today, we're featuring the First 10 Young Mathematicians Initiative in York, Pennsylvania. This is a powerful community-wide approach to using these wonderful, fun math games to improve math learning and family engagement. So the links to the previous webinars are in the chat, and this slide links to the recordings as well. So that's the series. And now a quick overview of First 10. I provided a somewhat fuller explanation of the First 10 model in November. So if you get interested and you want to see the 15-minute fleshed out version, there's a link to that excerpt in the chat as well. And as context, First 10 is an initiative of the Education Development Center, EDC. EDC is a mission-driven nonprofit focused on education, health, and expanding economic opportunity. And we draw on the experience of many colleagues as we implement First 10, and Young Mathematicians is a great example of that. So a fundamental challenge that First 10 addresses is the fragmented state of most early childhood mixed delivery systems. And I'm sure this is something our audience is very familiar with. So we have gaps in, next slide, please. So we have gaps and disconnects between early childhood and K-12 and between education, health, and social services. And as a result, children experience inconsistent quality and a lack of coordination and alignment. In response to these gaps and disconnects, next slide, please. First 10 communities use this framework to bridge silos, jointly implement new strategies to meet the needs of children and families, improve coordination and alignment, and to learn from each other. So starting in the center of this graphic and working outwards, we begin with a commitment that all children learn and thrive. And by learn and thrive, we have a whole child notion in mind that includes health and mental health outcomes, social emotional learning outcomes, and academic and cognitive outcomes. We then convene a partnership that includes schools and early childhood programs and community organizations with the idea that we're all interdependent, and through our collaboration, we get better at what we do. And then these partnerships implement 3 broad strategies across the early childhood elementary school continuum as part of a coherent plan, drawing on the evidence-based practices of First 10 exemplar communities. And you can see these 3 strategies on the left side of this graphic: collaborate to improve teaching and learning, coordinate comprehensive services, and deepen partnerships with families in culturally responsive ways. And for each of these broad strategies, most of our communities begin with a set of starter practices. All of our communities implement comprehensive transition to kindergarten plans. They collaborate on providing school-connected play and learns for children and families, and they conduct community-wide parenting campaigns, and then the work evolves from there. So now we have a new partnership in town. If you look on the right side of the graphic, it's important that we lead strategically and continuously improve. So a senior First 10 team facilitator works with each First 10 team to assess assets and needs, develop a focused plan, implement that plan, and collect continuous improvement data to monitor progress. So that's the First 10 framework. And now kind of to the second part of Kim's question, to set up the work in York. First 10 communities tend to be structured in one of 2 ways. Next slide, please. One structure is a First 10 zone or community partnership that includes multiple elementary schools and all the early childhood programs within that geographic area. So this can be a whole district or a neighborhood within a district, a town within a county-wide district. And our 2 examples from back in November, from our November webinar, Conestoga Valley and Woonsocket, they're both good examples of First 10 zones or community partnerships. And then the second structure, next slide, please, is a community school hub, a First 10 community school hub. And the idea here is to take that community school model in which schools connect families to health and social services. We take that community school model and we push it down to include children ages 0 to 4 and their families. And this is the model the state of Maine has chosen to support with their many rural communities in mind, and we focused on that in February. So you might ask, couldn't a community do both? Couldn't you have a community-wide partnership with First 10 hubs within it? And so next slide, please. That's what York, Pennsylvania, under Dr. Berry-Brown's leadership has done. So you see the darker blue school hubs and the lighter blue First 10 community-wide partnership in this graphic. And this is what York has done. So what does this mean in practice? Next slide, please. York has a citywide advisory of senior leaders overseeing the work. And we're also convening a family partnership work group to develop a coherent citywide family partnership approach. And then in blue, you see the current citywide initiatives. We have a transition to kindergarten work group that oversees this Young Math initiative. We're doing some focused early grades work. The pre-K teams have used data and professional learning communities as a way to improve and refine teaching strategies. And Jen Wilson on our panel has been very involved in that. And York has also supported guided play centers in all kindergarten classrooms across the district. And Airiana, also on our panel, has been a leader in that work. So, and then there are 3 First 10 community schools that go deeper with all these practices, and the district is adding 2 additional First 10 schools this fall. So York's model is an ambitious model that includes community-wide and school-based work. There is significant commitment from the district and the community to this work, and York has significant needs as a community with high levels of poverty. And that's why we felt it was an ideal location to bring the Young Mathematicians initiative. So here I'll quickly just add in the next slide that since 2019, we've implemented First 10 in 6 states and over 50 communities, urban, rural, and suburban, all with a focus on children and families and households with low incomes. And our communities come together as a community of practice monthly to share ideas and practices. Next slide, please. We've been formally evaluated twice, once in Michigan and once in Rhode Island. We're really pleased by these findings from the American Institutes of Research. And you can find these evaluations, next slide, please, a video, a case study, and other materials in this resource kits. And the link to this will also be in the chat. So here's my contact information if you have any questions. And thanks so much, Kim.
Thanks so much, David. That was a lot of information very quickly. It seems like you've maybe done this before once or twice. Really exciting to hear what's happening in York. And we're going to hear some more from Kristen Reed. Kristen, you and I have worked on math together for many years. We're both champions of early math. And so it's really exciting to have you here to talk with the folks on the webinar. Why are early math games such a great way of connecting homeschool and community? We'd love then, after you answer that question, for you to talk to us about the why, what, and how of the Young Mathematicians pilot project in York City.
Thank you so much, Kim. And I'll start with your first question and then get into the details of our work in York. So if we go forward just 2 slides, I'm going to start with a 3-minute video that gives an overview of our YM program and how we're using math games to connect children's learning across home, school, and community.
Children are natural mathematicians. Long before entering kindergarten, they engage with the world in mathematical ways, from counting and sorting objects to noticing patterns, or even dividing a treat fairly among friends. Building on this natural curiosity and enjoyment of math, the Young Mathematicians Project at EDC has partnered with teachers and families from Head Start to develop over 50 math games for children ages 3 to 6. Starting kids early with math is particularly important because children from under-resourced communities enter preschool a full year behind their higher income peers. And this opportunity gap persists throughout the course of schooling. The games have been constructed to be used at home and in school to focus on big ideas in early math, like counting and number operations, geometry, data analysis, and spatial reasoning. Because studies show that these preschool math skills are strongly correlated with later academic success. While these math ideas may seem challenging to introduce to young children, it can be as easy as playing card games, building an obstacle course, or even sorting everyday items. The games from Young Mathematicians have been intentionally designed to use simple materials like dot cards, number path boards, even the fingers on your hand, so that after children learn to play the games at school, it's easy to take the same or similar materials home to play with their families. And once the games go home, we found that families start noticing all the ways that math is already a part of their lives. To support teachers and families' use of our materials, we've created user-friendly direction sheets and short videos available in multiple languages. The games can also be played across a wide range of difficulty levels, allowing teachers and families to use higher numbers and more complex variations as their children progress.
I was really given a different lens to see the math everywhere around me, and my son, almost daily, he asked for us to play the math game with him.
Playing these games, it was quality time with my child, but it was quality time that I felt that was beneficial to his today and his future. I can't put a value on it. Like, my son is math confident, and I see how confident he is in math, and it makes me feel proud.
I'm more conscious of introducing math daily. That's something that I was kind of afraid to do because of my own prejudice with math, I would say. But the program has helped me greatly into kind of letting go of that fear, you know.
Visit our website to learn more about our games and how to engage young children in math.
Thank you. And I've watched that video so many times now, but just love those testimonials so much. So Jess and I started this work 12 years ago, and we started with a focus on using math games to promote persistence in preschool classrooms. But after a year or two, we heard from teachers that they really wish their families could learn more about early math and have access to the math games and resources. So we began focusing on developing and testing early math resources with families that could be used across home and school settings. And then our partnership with families began to extend into the community and all the organizations that support family learning: the libraries, the YWCA, the YMCA, the United Way, family partnership programs. And that's what our focus is in New York. So bringing together all these organizations that support children and families so we can infuse all of these spaces with early math learning. And we really want that joyful math learning embedded into the broader ecosystem of the learning community. So next slide talks a little bit about some of the research that we've been able to do in the past. Again, thanks to our funders from the NSF, Heising-Simons, and Overdeck. So we've been able to do a rigorous research and evaluation of our YM program, and that was actually prior to starting this work in York. One of our prime questions with this research was, is there a benefit to adding a family math component to a classroom Young Mathematicians games and professional learning program? And so we did a study with over 600 children and 66 teachers, and we found that children who played the YM games at school and did them at home had significantly higher math scores at the end of the year than children who were in the business as usual condition. And the more often children played the math games, the higher their math score was at the end of the year. Interestingly, teachers who used the games in the classroom and sent the family math materials home had significantly higher instructional interactions with children in the classroom than teachers who just used the games in the classroom, as rated by the class pre-K for those of you in that space. So we think that this is because children were bringing ideas from home and teachers were able to connect to children's home learning, and that really engaged their those interactions, really supported those interactions strongly. We have a link to that study on the slide. So you've heard this on the next slide. You've heard this a couple times already, that reason why we're focused on early math learning is because a couple decades of research now have shown that entering kindergarten with strong early math skills is the best predictor of later academic performance, regardless of race, gender, or socioeconomic status, and that those early math skills predict later achievement more than reading abilities or social emotional development. So that's why our big focus on early math. So next slide. And it brings us to some of our goals in York. So we're really focused, and we were able to join the amazing work that First 10 has been doing in York in fall of 2023. It's when we started the YM partnership. And we began that work really thinking about how we can use these math games and this family engagement support to help that transition from preschool to kindergarten. how we can use these games to support those family-school partnerships, to support children's learning, and with the amazing support of Dr. Berry-Brown, the superintendent, really being able to invest early to make sure children have that head start in their learning. So, next slide. So these are some of the things that we did. So we started professional learning and co-design sessions with a pilot group of pre-K and K teachers in the spring of 2024. And then we were able to expand to all of the pre-K and K teachers in the district in the 24-25 school year. Many of the preschools in the community were also able to join the sessions and integrate the YM games and approach into their programs. The teachers were amazing and worked on integrating the games into their scope and sequence and regular classroom routines, and we'll get to see some of that when we hear from Airiana and Jen. And the games were also included in family play and learns that the teachers run as part of their first 10 work. And we were able to coordinate with the public library. I saw Trish join the call, so thank you for coming, Trish. The public library in New York has been amazing, and they have been able to integrate some of these math ideas and the math games and this approach into their family offerings, their summer programs, and their displays. And we're also working with groups of families and teachers to co-design 10 math games and 10 math books that are going to be used as a hook to the community as part of a sustainability and promotion strategies when our grant funding ends. As part of that grant funding, we were able to provide materials to classrooms, all the classrooms and community organizations, and we were also able to expand our language offerings to include Haitian Creole, which was very important to meet the needs of the York community. So next slide. We're really focused on that bi-directional partnership where we're listening and learning from each other. We're making sure that as part of this work, we're committing time and resources to co-designing and planning together. We're really focused on building teacher and school capacity to work with families around math. Thinking about family math is not typically part of teacher training, so really working on those ideas and brainstorming and co-designing strategies with the community, and also focused on leveraging the strengths of the community to find those opportunities to learning, to find where those openings are that we can infuse more math. So just quickly, on the next slide, show you this wonderful picture. So we have hot off the press, 10 math games that we have been working on with York. And this is us trying them at last summer's Summer Institute. It's an obstacle course, really working on spatial language, the next step to map out the obstacles and working on that three-dimensional to two-dimensional transition. The next slide shows the draft bookmark. So First 10 has 10 books for the community, and we have 10 math games for the community. We'll have a web page that supports the use of these games in the community, and on the back of the bookmark, you can see the tips for families to support children's math learning. And on the next slide, we're also going to do 10 math books too. Very excited about that as well. And I want to call out to Marlene Kleinman. I saw you too on joining the group, because we incorporated so many of the math storytelling books that you helped develop, and we love them, and the teachers and families love them. We really worked with them on creating opportunities to increase math learning there too. So I will turn it back over to you, Kim, but thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Kristen, for all that information. It's so exciting to hear about the co-design and the community choosing and helping to adapt the games and choosing the books that they want to use in their community. That's fabulous, that tailoring. Now I'm so excited to talk with Andrea Berry-Brown, Dr. Andrea Berry-Brown, the superintendent of schools in New York City. Andrea, could you first share from your perspective as superintendent why First 10 was the right strategy to meet the needs of the students, families, and teachers in New York City?
Hi, everyone. As an early childhood educator myself, I've always believed in early childhood being the foundation of what we need for our students. And so there's three kind of big buckets that I think about as I think about that question. And the first one is the ability to have sustainable impact and building community trust. York City is a small community. It's very urban. It's a small urban community with big urban situations, right? Like, so being able to build community trust is paramount to get anything done. Our parents' experiences with school often impact how they feel about school with their kids. So building their trust early on and providing activities and situations where there's sustainable impact, that when they leave pre-K and go to kindergarten or even before pre-K, there is a fold of support that's sustainable, and the community begins to trust us long before the kids come to our school district. That concept of bearcats from birth. As soon as they are born and are into our community, we're ready to be a part of their village. And then secondly, being able to engage families early and empower teachers, because we want to make sure that as these little folks are coming into our district, and even before, that they feel welcome, that their families feel welcome, that the teachers are making the families feel welcome, and that we're able to empower the teachers through the work for the kids. And then finally, this idea of like early intervention and provide and support and providing long-term impact. We want to be able to see when students get to third, fourth, and fifth grade, the fruits of the labor of starting when they are at birth. So if it's kind of like planting a seed and watching it go through its several different stages. And by the time those kids transition from reading to learn, learning to read to reading to learn, you're seeing the return on investment. And it's long term because you've provided all of these resources, and they're not just traditional resources. That is what's key to me. They're resources that are future ready to make our students ready to be college and career ready, even at their young ages, because you have to start instilling that at a very young age and feeding that thought to them over and over again so that dream becomes a reality.
Thank you for that. It's just so powerful to hear you talk about trust and the importance of setting that foundation with families and kids to be lifelong learners and curious. A little follow-up question, if you'd indulge me. Why'd you choose to build on First 10 by becoming a pilot site for the Young Mathematicians Initiative? You have a lot going on in York City, I imagine, and it's not, a simple thing to take on a new initiative. Why'd you decide to do it?
Well, I am a true believer in the First 10 initiative. Like I said, my background is in early childhood, and I am tried and true that if we don't invest early, that we're going to suffer later, right? Like, so I've always say that. I say that to my high school administrators, my middle level administrators, all of my elementary people and my early childhood people. So it's an ongoing investment. And so the program is aligning to the First 10 goals. It's providing early engaging support for students and their families. It's an opportunity to bridge that home school connection, because the kids are playing games in class. And many of them are going home and saying, we played this game at school, and they're trying to replicate the games. They have copies of some of the games, and the parents are curious and they're asking about the games because the kids are so excited. So who wouldn't want an initiative that provides learning that is fun and that kids sell? Like, we don't have to go home and beg parents to work with their kids, because the kids are saying, we played this game and we had coins and we did this. And so when you see that sparkle in kids' eyes about learning you can't turn that away. I just can't. And then, you know, that long-term impact, I keep talking about that on access and achievement. You know, when kids are provided with access, the achievement levels are endless. And this program does that in the simplest way with great research from the concrete to the abstract. So setting students up at a very early age to think first in a concrete manner and then graduate to the abstract, it's powerful. Um, the decision was very deliberate, because you know you want to move to enhance those foundational skills in the first 10 years of their life, and you want to support teachers and engaging families and improving the outcomes for all of our kids. And finally, it's great professional development for our teachers. You know, I'm also a strong believer in not only differentiating learning for students, but also differentiating learning for adults. And our teachers of early childhood students need a different form of development than those that are teaching middle level and high school level. It's important to be able to develop them appropriately so they're providing the appropriate instruction and assessment to our students.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you bringing joy into this conversation about math. Doesn't always happen, and also the joy of families, kids, and educators who might be sort of reimagining their own relationships to mathematics. So appreciate that so much. Speaking of teachers, I'm going to turn now to Jennifer Wilson, who's a pre-K counts teacher. I would love to ask you this question, Jen. So you're a pre-K teacher, a member of the pilot group that was first introduced to the YM games. What's it been like implementing these games in your classroom?
It's really been great. You know, like you said, I'm lucky enough to be a pre-K teacher here in the school district of the city of York with admin that truly invest in early childhood education. It's great. And when David asked me to speak today, I was excited because Young Math has really been a game changer in my classroom. It's been an eye-opener and a bit of relief. An eye-opener because the resources that the Young Math games provide, it's very simple, very easy. It's very easy to incorporate in different parts of our day. A few of us have mentioned it. You know, in the past, math was kind of a bad word for me growing up as a parent, as a teacher. Just kind of the feeling of dread would come over me when someone would mention math. But this has really it's put the fun back in math for us. It's really been great. It's reminded me it should be fun, it can be fun, and it's easy to make it fun. The simplicity of like the resources and the materials and everything, it's wonderful, especially seeing the outcomes that I'm seeing in my data. It's been a relief because it has really simplified a lot of my planning. We also took the resources of Young Math and aligned it with our curriculum. So if I'm, you know, working on the standard, I know that Young Math has, oh, we're going to play this game today and it'll take care of it. So it's just, it's simple. It's very easy. And to see something so simple that has such a positive impact on the outcome and the data has just been great. The resources are easy to adapt too. You know, we have all different levels of learners in pre-K, and I can have the same game out and the same materials. And as the different kiddos come over, I can easily adapt what they need at that moment. And then once games are introduced, they're usually pretty good at kind of playing on their own. So I have an opportunity to sit and assess them. You know, what is their knowledge right now at the beginning of the game, their knowledge at the end. And I also, after we introduce it, the games can go in the independent play centers because then they know how to play them. So it's really been great. Just very, very easy to differentiate and all that good stuff in the classroom.
Thanks so much for that, a testimonial and the description of how it's actually made your life in some ways easier and maybe
much
helped us think about math a little differently too, which we
Yes.
many adults could use, as we've talked about. So I'm going to turn now to Angela Ashley, who's the Pre-K Counts principal. Angela, we've heard from Jen about her experiences implementing as an early adopter of the Young Mathematicians program. As a Pre-K principal, I have a couple of questions for you, or maybe a few questions. Can you share how you've integrated into the Pre-K curriculum, integrated the games in? We've heard from Jen, her testimonial. What are you hearing from Jen's colleagues about using the games and about working with YM? And what are you seeing in terms of student learning? We heard a little bit about that. We got a little tantalizing taste of that from Jen. It would be great to hear from you on what you're seeing about children's learning.
Great. Well, yeah, so starting out, integrating the Young Mathematicians games into our Pre-K Counts curriculum's been a really truly enriching experience for both our students and our teachers. We focused on making the games not just supplemental activities, but core components of our daily math exploration and instruction. And our current resource that we have really doesn't provide the rich math activities and learning that are engaging for our students. And so we're seeing with the Young Math games that they're providing our children with the practice and math skills, as well as learning essential social skills. As far as what we're seeing in terms of our response to the games from our teachers, they have been overwhelmingly positive. Initially, there was a little bit of apprehension, as with any new, component to the curriculum, but they quickly became seeing the value, as Jen was talking about, kind of making their lesson planning much, much easier. And our teachers appreciate that it's research-backed, so that they provide concrete ways to teach abstract math concepts to our students in a really engaging and fun way. And they've commented on how the games encourage active engagement and critical thinking, moving beyond just rote memorization of math skills. So we've provided a lot of professional development to help our teachers understand the underlying math concepts as far as what's involved in each game and how to facilitate and play them effectively. And this has been really crucial to the success and also to the comfort level for our teachers, because many of them had voiced in a preliminary survey that they didn't have much confidence in themselves as being able to teach math skills. So they're seeing the games as a positive, powerful tool that they can use for assessment, which gives them insight into each of their child's understanding of what they might not get through traditional methods of teaching. And we're seeing in terms of student math learning, like some exciting gains. We're observing a significant increase in students' mathematical vocabulary. They're using the terms like more, less, same, different, sort, patterns with greater confidence, and actually accurately being able to use those terms when they're talking and engaging in math language. And we're seeing stronger number sense development. Students are not just rote counting, but they're understanding quantity represented by that number. So their ability to subitize, which was a great word that we learned from Kristen and Jess. Or that, if for those of you who may not know, it's the instant ability to recognize the number of objects in a small group without having to count each one, is greatly improving in our students. I think that's one of the areas we're seeing most gain in at this point. And we're also seeing a remarkable improvement in their problem-solving skills. So the games are encouraging them to really think flexibly, be creative, try different strategies. And beyond the specific math skills, we're seeing increased collaboration, communication, and perseverance. So all the essential skills for mathematical thinking and beyond. And the games have really made math fun. They're engaging, they're fostering that positive attitude toward learning math, starting at a very young age. So really, in short, the Young Math Games have been a transformative addition to our pre-K counts program. And we see the benefit both in our teachers and their instruction. Our family engagement has increased, but most importantly in our youngest learners, our little baby Bearcats.
Thank you so much for your perspective and sharing all of that with us. I'm going to turn now to Sakeenah Sweeney, who's the director, owner of iCare Youniversity, which is a community-based program in York. Sakeenah, one of the things that's really exciting about this pilot project is the fact that the YM games are used in both pre-K and kindergarten and outside and across the whole community, that it's in a lot of places in New York City, including your program. So community preschools and families are engaged in the work. I'd love to hear from you how you think the Young Math Games can help promote family engagement and how they can be used in community-based preschools.
Great, good afternoon. Thank you for having me. The thing that we noticed the most, there were several things. It was the interactive learning that can be taken home. So the games encouraged our parents to actively participate in their child's learning by play. And as you heard before, the children really sell the game. So much so that when we walk into class and they know that they're transitioning, they're trying to get out the games ahead of time. So they're really excited about it. And the activities are often on hand, like in their hands-on for them, and they're simple. So they require everyday material. So just say if something got destroyed accidentally, we could easily improvise. And they're making these games accessible and easily to do at home. They also, what I noticed most is they build confidence in our parents. And anyone who has loved math like me as an early educator, you know that everyone can be taught different ways. And so the biggest thing for our parents is when they see how simple the games are and they can connect one-on-one with their child. So many caregivers may feel like I'm prepared to teach math. Like, I don't know how to do the new age math is what we hear all the time. But these games, they support training. They support the learning of parents and they boost the parents' confidence. So the instructions and the materials are very easy to understand. So it strengthens also the homeschool to school connection. We had grandparents come in and play games. We hosted a game night. So when teachers send these games home or organize game nights using these same games, it builds a bridge between what was taught in preschool and what was taught at home, and then how we can figure out where maybe there's room to connect further. One other thing in using the math games in the community-based preschool was the in-class activities. Teachers can incorporate these games once they're learned into small centers or groups, which teach the children to teach each other or to support and help each other. They also provide playful, low-pressure way to develop the sense of numbers. I love the supertizing. That was one of the words that I was taught as well. I love it. I said it all the time, made me feel fancy. But pattern recognition and problem solving was one that we saw most effective. The family nights and or parent workshops, the schools can host these at any given time. Our center hosts date nights for parents. And I thought that would get a big reaction from parents, but we got more reaction when we started to introduce the games, because parents could play the games, even the rolling of the dice and just hopping down the hallway as they were transitioning their children into class. And that exchange of care was done right then and there. The take-home packs that we can send home, when the games are sent home in the kits, they have clear instructions and materials. Rotation of these kits among families also ensure that each child can teach another child, which I found to be very, very successful. And the culture and the cultural relevance to this, the community preschools adapt these games and they reflect the languages and cultural experiences of the families that they serve. So not only was this material presented to us in English, but in Spanish and in Haitian Creole, which is a huge population. So there was no one actually left out. This also increases the engagement and the relevance of the diverse population that we serve. So it was definitely super exciting for us.
Thank you so much. Just love hearing about that peer-to-peer interaction and the fact that all of your families are able to participate in this because the resources are available in the languages that they speak. It's really wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us, Sakeenah. I'm going to turn now to Airiana Kibbler. We've heard a lot about what happens in preschool and pre-kindergarten. So Airiana, you're a kindergarten teacher. Can you tell us what your experience has been using the YM games in kindergarten?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Before I dive too deep into that question, I really wanted to reiterate what Dr. Berry-Brown had said about creating trust with the families and it being so important. As a teacher in York City, I'm extremely thankful to be able to serve such a diverse population of students and just their home languages and everything that comes with it. But sometimes that means the families don't feel as comfortable building relationships with the teachers or even just having a simple conversation at the door. It can be very intimidating for the parents. So using these math games has really been a great way to kind of build that bridge of trust across all of my students and all of their home languages. Overall, using the math games in kindergarten has grown not only my students' confidence with math and just each other, but also the family's confidence with communicating with the staff and playing math games at home with their kid. I've seen like such a tremendous growth, not only in the math skills, but again, the confidence, and it's just been so exciting. The hands-on playfulness of the games has really been a great way for my students to build those foundational skills in a fun and meaningful way. Speaking again to the family engagement part of it, I've sent the games home, and that's really what started the families being able to feel confident and comfortable speaking. They'll ask questions, they'll even request extra copies of the games for aunts and uncles and grandparents to play. So it's been really, really cool. But the most exciting part of it has been the development of their math vocabulary and the teamwork among my students. My students are using more precise math language, not only in our actual academic math portion of the day, but also in our free choice math or playstations. I'm sorry. It's just been incredible to see them work collaboratively and use that kind of math language, which you'll actually get to see a few seconds of my students playing a game together here. If somebody could pop that video up.
And then
One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So good job, Sophia. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
So something that I found really interesting in that video, you may have noticed that she counted her dice twice. That's a skill I teach them to do in our structured math block, is double checking their work and recounting. So it's really been cool to see that they take their skills from our math block and incorporate them into the games and vice versa. We actually were introducing that game before our addition unit. And then once our addition unit started, they were like, it's just like our frog game. And they were so excited to count the dots on their paper and associate it with that frog game. It has been really incredible.
I love your enthusiasm, and I love the chance to see children playing the games. That's exciting. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to turn now to Jess. So we've heard a lot about the educators, about their experiences with the YM games. Could you share a few highlights from the evaluation and what you're learning so far?
Sure. Thank you so much, Kim. I'm really excited to tell you a little bit more about the evaluation results. But I think hearing from all of the teachers and from everyone in the York community has been, honestly, Kristen and I are giggling over here, just so happy hearing the firsthand how the games have impacted folks and how helpful they have been, since that has been our goal from the beginning. If we just want to pull up a couple of slides, I have a few slides to share. Yes, and we can go to the next slide. Great, thank you. So firstly, I just want to mention that we have an independent evaluator. Her name is Amanda Rich from Open Road Inclusive Community Consulting, and she is local to the York community.
And she is engaging in a formative and a summative evaluation. So the evaluation seeks feedback from all of York's stakeholders, kind of similar to this panel, honestly. So folks from the district, from the community, including administrators, educators, families, community organizations, including the library, and other organizations as well. So just wanted to mention that. Next slide, please. So we have been in York for 2 years, starting last school year. And since we've been doing both summative and evaluative evaluation, the first that I'm going to talk about is more of a summative one, and that is from last year, from the 2023-24 school year. And during that school year, what we found is that teachers really showed meaningful growth in their interest, their understanding, and in their confidence doing the math games and in engaging with families around family math as well. The folks that participated in the YM pilot program, they showed even greater growth in these areas. And I have another slide that I'll tell you a little bit more about. But they showed even greater growth in their confidence, their feelings of self-efficacy, and their family math engagement. But overall, folks felt well supported, engaging in the family math. And we also did notice that there were varying degrees of engagement in family math activities, which we would expect. But also we saw that folks were really interested in engaging in family math. And so we anticipate high likelihood of future engagement in family math. Next slide, please. So for our pilot educators, so last year we started slower. We worked with a smaller set of pilot educators, and we surveyed everyone at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. And for the folks that were engaged in the pilot, where they did professional learning, they engaged in feedback sessions and co-design, we saw significant increases in their understanding of the importance of family math and early math learning. We saw statistically significant changes in their knowledge of early math. We heard all about subitizing, things like that. Their interest in early math and doing early math activities, and also comfort engaging in early math and supporting families in doing that math. And engaging young children in the early math as well, which are all things we're really excited about. Next slide, please. So in addition to that summative information, this school year, we have been engaging in a formative evaluation. Obviously, the school year isn't over yet, so we don't have any of that summative information yet. But as part of that, our evaluator is asking questions like, how is YM being implemented for you? How is it being integrated into classrooms, into communities? And what do stakeholders, what do participants think about the program, the first 10 plus YM? What do they think about it? How is it going? What are the strengths? But also what might be some challenges for implementation, and how can we, since it's formative, it helps to inform us so that we can change the program and improve it as we go along, sort of that continuous improvement as well. So on the next slide, we have some initial findings from this year. And this year, York's families and the educators, plus district folks and community leaders, have reported that the games are very engaging. They're developmentally appropriate for children. They encourage engagement in math, language skills, and literacy skills, and it builds children's confidence in early math. Next slide, please. And folks also mention that they really appreciate that family engagement is at the forefront of the program. They have a very strong appreciation for YM's focus on family math, the inclusion of diverse family structures, diverse family languages, creating the materials in multiple languages, specific, adding Haitian Creole for the York population, and that families then feel more powered up to support math learning at home. In addition, we've heard from people that this really helps to reinforce the York schools as welcoming community hubs as well. Next slide, please. We have been hearing that the YM Games have been strengthening educator confidence and competence. So there's been a high satisfaction among the educators for the YM Games. They feel that the program supports the leadership development and also enhances early math teaching and innovation in teaching as well. We heard from Sakeenah that they felt, good about adapting the games and making sure the games fit with their community, with their classroom culture, and getting to that innovation in doing early math that really works for your kids. Was really excited about that as well. Next slide, please. Part of our goal, really integrating with the first 10, is strengthening those early education systems. So I think one of the great things is that through this integration with first 10, YM has really been able to bridge preschool and kindergarten curricula, particularly around early math, but that gives a nice cohesive feeling for children. So when they go from preschool in the community, in Head Start or in the district pre-K, and then go to the public school kindergarten, they'll see the same math games. If they haven't been either of those places, they've been at the library. If they've been to the Play and Learns, they'll have seen those games, and then they'll come to kindergarten feeling more comfortable and confident in their math skills as well. So again, that helps to promote collaboration among the schools and the communities, among different stakeholders. Even in this photo, we see you, Trish. We see a district assistant teachers next to the public librarian. And so again, that increasing alignment among education stakeholders, among community organizations as well. We've been hearing about the need for user-friendly math assessment tools. So that's something that we've been working with Angela and with the district around and supporting use of that as well. And again, back to the creation of the multilingual materials. Next slide, please. Quickly, don't be fast. I won't read all the quotes here, but in general, we hear that it's a good bridge from home to school. It supports EML students. It really values the community organizations, and that YM really supports even the littlest mathematicians. All right, I'll read the last one. So, from a teacher, my students' confidence in math since starting the program has probably doubled. They're so excited. Now, at the end of the day, during our exploration center time, they're asking for me to pull out the games, especially the little frog hopping game. They're asking for those things during free choice time. And that's been so cool to see. So again, for us, that's also so cool to see. We love, like, as folks have said, that the kids are the ones selling the games. They are really excited about the games. Next slide, please. And of course, we have a huge focus on families. This is from the fall survey, and it's a really big asset of that families have, that they think that early math learning is really important. So that's something that is coming from the community and an asset that they have. And final slide. In addition, this slide, no one can really read it, but what it says basically is that families are doing a lot of different kinds of things at home and a lot of different math activities. And so this gives us information to build on. They are doing lots of great things, and we can see from this, and we're excited. We will be following up with families at the end of the school year to see if any of these kinds of things change, but how can we enhance different counting activities or spatial learning, and providing resources for maybe some of the areas that they're not doing as much, whether it's maybe playing some different types of games or drawing maps. So we can see both what they're doing and where we can continue to grow. So again, thank you. Thank you, Kim, for your support of.
Yes, Yeah, that too. But thank you so much for these details. It's, you know, I don't ever get tired of hearing about how this is operating in New York City, and hearing families say how important math is and how much more confidence they have, and hearing that children are excited about it is such joy for me, and for, I'm sure, many in this room. One of them might be Jen. Jen's coming back to talk with us because I have a follow-up question for you. And I think we might even get a little more information on children and what they're doing from you. So one of the related first-in activities for preschool, pre-K teachers has been using data. And you mentioned data. You use these in grade level professional learning community teams to improve teaching and learning. Can you share a little bit about how your colleagues have collaborated on teaching strategies in English, language arts, and math?
Sure, I'd love to. The collaboration has been very helpful. Even though I have a pre-K teacher in the room right next door to me, we don't really get a lot of time face-to-face to collaborate. So having this set aside time has been very, very helpful. We meet once a week and we switch it between math and ELA every week. We'll start our session just identifying a skill or standard that we know it, needs a little more attention. And then we just kind of work together to brainstorm, okay, strategies, what games can we pull out, different stuff like that. We also work to, okay, what is going to make this skill proficient for this kiddo, or emerging or approaching, just so we can work our strategies around that as well. Then we also, a big part of it is identifying the student's strengths and what they need. And sometimes just, stopping in the week and identifying the student's strengths is great. Sometimes you forget about that in the rat race of everything. An example recently, I was concentrating on adding and subtracting sets of objects up to and including 3, focusing on using that math vocabulary. So that's a skill we identified. We went back and forth with strategies and brainstormed our ideas. And I have a video of a game that we played, if someone can pull that up. And then one more makes
5.
5. Very good. Do you want me to do it one more time?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, put them all out. I'm going to take a turn this time.
After that, then I'll let Fernando have a turn if he wants to play.
That's fine with me. The more the merrier, right? Okay, close your eyes.
Maybe I can play.
One more magic trick. Jeffrey, close your eyes. Abracadabra. Shmabrabadabra. Open your eyes. So how many are not hiding? 1, 2, 3. So how many are hiding?
1.
No, Jeffrey. We're not peeking. You got to figure this out. So 2 are not hiding. So think of your hand, right? We have 5 fingers. So 1, 2 are not hiding. So how many does that leave? Count my fingers.
1, 2, 3. I know it's 3.
You do. Let's see if Jeffrey does it. Count my fingers.
1, 2,
3. So you think there's 3 hiding? Let's check it. Go ahead. Lift it up. Yay! You got it right. So let's count them all and make sure we were right. Is all 5 there, Jeffrey?
After Miss Wilson turn is my turn.
The leprechaun didn't hide any. So that's just kind of another quick, I adopted that because it was St. Patrick's week and we used gold coins and, it was the leprechaun hiding them. So that was just a quick example. But after playing that game, we went in our PLC, I was talking about how, a lot of them got it, but there were a couple that were still, kind of like Jeffrey, like not understanding and honestly, the question that we were asking. So I was talking to my co-teacher and we thought of the game Make 5 from Young Math because it's a little bit simpler for them. So I went back, started playing that game with the group that needed, that a little bit more. And from there, those kiddos are now, doing better with the hiding game and using the math vocabulary more. So it's just the routine and the layout of the PLC. It's just made us take the time to look specifically at the skills, the students, the instruction, and then the outcome and data and revisit it and make changes as needed. Like I said before, it's so easy to get caught up in the busyness of the classroom. And this has really made us just stop and analyze stuff and get into it.
Thank you so much for sharing that and for bringing that video. Always great to see the kids in action, and you too. See some really excellent teaching. I'm going to turn now to Airiana. I understand that as part of First 10, kindergarten teachers across the district have implemented guided play centers. I believe you mentioned this earlier, as part of the school day. Can you share the experience that your children are having with the centers, and what are the implications for their math learning?
I would love to answer that. Play centers is my favorite part of the day. Our play centers have really been such an incredible and dynamic space for both academic and social emotional learning. My students have recently started requesting more implementation of the Young Math games into various centers, and specifically the math games are becoming a center favorite. The games are reinforcing math concepts in a low stress, fun way that the students can really connect to. And something that I've noticed in our art center is that my students are kind of adapting the game to make it their own. So earlier in this meeting, you guys saw my students rolling the dice and playing the frog hopper game. But recently, the students in that video took the dice and put little shape stickers on the sides of the dice. And then when they would roll, their frog would hop for the number of sides that that shape had. So that was really cool to see that they did that like all on their own. I was amazed. Dramatic play. I've seen even their math vocabulary growing in that. When they're going shopping, they'll be like, oh, we need 3 more apples, or the baby needs 2 more bottles, or just things like that. So that math vocabulary is translating to art and science, all of our centers, especially our ELA and our writing center, that my students weren't really as into that this year. Some years they really aren't, other years they're not, but this year they're like loving it. They're writing numbers and they're dot markering numbers and doing all of the fun things. So that's been really cool to see. An unexpected area for me personally that I saw math growing was the block center. They're patterning with the colored blocks. They're talking about taller and shorter, more or less. So it's just been incredible to see that language development for not only my native English speaking students, but my Haitian Creole and Spanish speaking students as well.
Thanks so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Angela, come on back. You played a major role in supporting math in the pre-K PLCs and the kindergarten centers. What do you think the impact of these initiatives has been?
Well, you heard some examples from both of our teachers, both in pre-K and K already, the great impact it's having on our students and their ability, their creative thinking, just their socialization. But I've really been, I'm just super privileged to be able to play a role in supporting both of these initiatives, because it's just been an incredibly rewarding experience and seeing the positive impact. So with our pre-K PLCs, which we just started rolling out actually January of this year. So we've only been doing them for like 5 months now. But these have developed into really collaborative spaces that have been really instrumental in fostering that culture of shared learning and continuous improvement among our pre-K teachers and our assistant teachers, because we do include them as well in our PLC sessions. And as Jen had said, you know, she's got a pre-K teacher that's literally right next door to her, but they never really have the opportunity or the time to be able to collaborate and share ideas with each other. So into implementing the PLC time now weekly has really just, I think, made that huge difference to just even bring the teachers together that are within the same buildings. But the most significant impact I think I've seen is their increased pedagogical knowledge and their confidence in teaching, both in ELA and math, particularly math, as they come together, you know, on a regular basis to discuss best practice, share resources, look at student work, They're deepening their understanding of early childhood development and the standards, and then coming up with those effective instructional strategies to help support our students. So they're feeling more supported and really less isolated in their classrooms, which I think has been a really positive for us in our program. They've also had a direct impact on the classroom practice. So teachers are implementing these new ideas and strategies that they're learning and discussing in their PLCs, which are leading to more engaging and developmentally appropriate learning experiences for our youngest learners. So we're seeing more intentional planning around the specific learning objectives and more differentiation to meet the diverse needs of our students in our classes. And they have a greater focus on the play-based learning that is tying to those learning goals that they're planning for. So the collaborative problem solving that's happening within the PLCs has also been really powerful in addressing any challenges and then being able to work together and find solutions to those challenges. As far as kindergarten centers go, I love working with kindergarten too. Love pre-K, love kinder. But being able to introduce the kindergarten centers to all of our classrooms across the district this year, we had pilot groups the last couple of years, but this year having it in full force across all 25 kindergarten rooms and intentional use of those learning centers, I think have had a profound impact on our students' engagement and enthusiasm for learning. And one of the most visible impacts, I think, is the increased student autonomy and their independence. So Airiana mentioned a little bit about that, about the creativity and the independence of just coming up with ideas on their own. And having this time integrated now in the day allows our kids to be able to do that. So the students are learning really to make choices, manage their time wisely, collaborate, and get along with each other around that, center time. And it's building those crucial executive functioning skills that are essential for their future success. From a learning perspective, I think the centers provide opportunities for that hands-on, the multisensory exploration of this key academic concepts. So they do make sure that they're integrating, into each of those centers, having standards posted, questions posted, so that when someone does come into the classroom, they can engage in conversation and have the children actually explain what it is that they're doing or they're working on. So our kids are actively constructing knowledge through play. They're interacting with the materials. And we're seeing that deeper understanding of those foundational skills in both literacy and math, because they're able to practice these skills in a variety of engaging ways through the centers. It also allows for differentiation and enables the teachers to provide some targeted support if needed, or extension activities based on the individual student needs. So I think the centers are fostering those social skills. As students learn to share, they learn to communicate, which is a big concern nowadays. As we're seeing kids coming into pre-K, really lacking in those oral language skills. So this gives them that ability to practice and really just work together effectively. So I think we're, through PLCs, we're building the capacity of our teachers and improving instructional practices. While the kindergarten centers are really creating those dynamic and engaging learning environments that promote our students' deeper thinking and understanding of those foundational skills. So I think both initiatives are working well together to create a stronger and more effective early childhood program for us here in the school district of the City of York that's benefiting our students and setting them up for success for their future years in school.
Oh, thanks so much for sharing that. Angela, I'm sorry. for sharing that, Angela. I want to ask Andrea a final question. You've been hearing so much, and we've all been hearing. It's been so exciting to hear from Sakeenah, Airiana, Jen, and Angela, how they're supporting early learning through First 10 and YM, and how the kids are reacting and the families are reacting. Just so exciting. Anyway, what have you learned as a superintendent, as you've worked with this program, about how districts can partner with initiatives like this in support of a strong foundation for early learning?
Well, there's so much that I could say that I've learned, but I think the two key things that are takeaways for me and that win me over every time is engaging families and caretakers and fostering collaborative relationships. You know, that does it for me, right? When I can get people outside that have impact on board with learning at an early age, once I get them, I won't lose them. So that makes my superintendent heart happy. But I think one of the things that districts can learn is that you can benefit from this proactive collaborative partnership with not only community-based early childhood programs, but also school-based programs. By aligning curriculum, sharing resources, sharing data, and most importantly, engaging families. A lot of these partnerships create cohesive support and an environment that lays a strong foundation for early math learning and overall development. And to me, that is paramount. Can't ask for anything more than that. So I am very grateful to Kristen and Jess. I'm grateful to David, as well as all of the sponsors that have helped to make, you know, this program successful in the school district of the city of York, and my two teachers, and Angie, of course, that work in the trenches, roll up their sleeves and are shoulder to shoulder every day. And it just happens to be Teacher Appreciation Week, so I get to brag about them a little bit extra. But these girls are in the fold for kids. They're passionate about it. They're relentless about it. And I know a week, a month, and maybe a year from now, they're going to see all this hard work come to fruition. So I appreciate you ladies, and thank you all for the opportunity for us to be able to share.
Well, thank you so much to everyone for sharing your very precious time with us. We know you have a really important job to do, the most important job to do, serving young children and educating them. So thank you so much for spending time with us. I wanted to turn to my EDC colleagues, Jess, Kristen, and David, to hear if they have any reflections on what they've heard today. And it looks like we have a question or two in the chat, and if you have responses to those, that would be great as well.
Yeah. Actually, as I've been listening to everyone thinking about this, I really want to thank the district and the district support. They really have worked so hard to find time so that the teachers can get that professional learning, so that they can get those PLCs, so they can have that time by supporting the teachers, by supporting us, by allowing us in, by just partnering with us in a really authentic way that I think we've heard makes my heart happy, is supporting the children and the families, which I think is what all of us, that's our goal, right? And so I just really want to thank the district and want to thank the community programs that have worked with us as well. Really, that's been my big takeaway. Thank you.
Yeah, and amazing seeing the videos. That is definitely so appreciate you all sharing your experiences using the games. And I noticed a question in the chat is materials for parents to use with very young children in the first 2 or 3 years of life. And so in the initial infant toddler stages, we really focus on trying to incorporate a lot of math talk and math language in what you're doing and in your interactions with children, and focus on that really language and vocabulary development, counting, talking about shapes, noticing patterns, moving, using spatial language throughout your day, all of those great ways to really incorporate math language into what you're doing. And a lot of our games really start with 3-year-olds. We've had some success with 2-year-olds, but a lot of the games really start with 3-year-olds because that's where we developed in the context of Head Start. So we made sure that you could use a simpler version of the game with your 3-year-olds and then make it more complex with the same materials with your 5, 6-year-olds into even into lower elementary school. But so that I hope that helps answer the question about those.
We do
first
have
years.
some finger play
Yes.
games. Those are perfect for the
Perfect.
little ones. And you can find all of them on our website for free to check out the free videos and how to play. So, yeah.
And I'll jump in and just say I want to echo Jess and Kristen in thanking the district for their leadership around this work. I think maybe one of Kim's early questions was, why did we choose York? Why was York a good setting for this? And I think you can hear when we have that kind of district and community commitment to First 10 and to initiatives like YM, things go really, really well, and that makes a huge difference. And we've seen that today in the city of York. So thanks to all of our teacher and administrator leaders throughout the district for championing this work. And then I would just also mention, that we're in year 2, and there are a few things that we're looking forward to in the coming year. We heard, Jess mentioned how we have pre-K, community-based pre-K teachers using these games. We have district pre-K teachers using these games. We have kindergarten teachers using these games. So now next year, is going to be the first year where we've had a lot of pre-K teachers using these games moving into kindergarten. And what is that going to mean when those children experience these games, are familiar with these games, and then teachers like Airiana are going to pick up from teachers like Jen and really prepare those children in math and in family engagement for the next year, for first grade. So we're excited about that. We're excited about a new initiative across the city of York to really develop a community approach to family engagement and partnership. You heard Dr. Berry and Angela talking about their commitment to this kind of work, and now we're going to be picking that up and using kind of YM as a focus, driving that forward. So we're excited about that. And the last thing I would say is we focused a lot on pre-K and K this year, but York has also been among our leaders in bringing first and second grade teachers into this work as well, both the YM work and the collaboration with pre-K and K. So those are all things that I think we look to building on next year.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. It seems like we have so many folks who are really interested in incorporating this. Maybe, do you have advice, any of you, I guess? Mostly look at my EDC folks, but maybe our educators do as well. Advice on how you would get started on incorporating math into your classroom or into the setting that you teach in?
I can speak from a teacher's perspective if we have a minute real quick.
We do.
I think the biggest thing that I needed to realize was it was okay to pace myself and that all of the games didn't have to be introduced all at the same time. Because when we first got the kits, they were amazing, but I was like, there's so many games. Where do I start? And once I really took the time to break down what would work for my kids in that moment, it was a wonderful experience. So just taking that time to reflect and see what's most important at that time and what's most relevant.
Thank you.
Can I
Anyone
just
else
add a
speak?
little bit? I feel like just kind of letting the kids play for a little bit too and observing them helped me learn what they needed. And then also we aligned a lot of it with our curriculum. So that really, once it was plugged in where I needed it to be, I knew when to pull it out, so it really did make it easier.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say from a leadership point of view is just have a plan. And like we did give the kits all at one time, so it was a little bit overwhelming. But then also providing that support to the teachers. I mean, we had 5 half-day sessions of professional development throughout the year. So that's key, I think, is just making sure that you're chunking it and then being able to bring the team back together and have that conversation and that collaboration about, well, how are you implementing it? How did you roll it out? How did you introduce it? And just sharing those different ideas, and just making sure that teachers feel supported and confident as well. I think helping with that survey that Kristen and Jess, and Amanda rolled out at the beginning was huge because a lot of that data was used then to actually separate our groups of teachers. So those that felt comfortable, and then those that, needed a little bit more support. So we actually differentiated those sessions for them as well, which I think was super helpful.
That's great. Thank you so much for answering that last question. I think we're getting close to the end here, Jenny. Should I turn it back over to you?
Yes. Thank you so much, Kim, for leading such a fantastic discussion. It was so inspiring. And I know I learned a lot. I wish I was running over to the school next door to my house to play a few games right now with the kids. But I just want to remind everyone that you will receive all these amazing resources and be able to view the video and see the slides in our follow-up email. And then just thank all of our presenters, Angela, Superintendent Berry-Brown, our amazing teachers, Jen and Airiana and Sakeenah, as well as David, Kristen, and Jessica for your time and for sharing all this amazing work that you've been doing. We wanted to also just remind you before we hop off about the upcoming webinars. Again, we have one today at 3 that you may want to join, Schools as Safe Spaces, and then we'll have another one next week focused on Medicaid as a linchpin, and then 2, a funder conversation on support for immigrant families and children, as well as later one that same day on education savings accounts. So we hope you'll join us again, and thanks again to our presenters and to all of you for joining. Have a great afternoon, everyone.